But one thing I did find interesting is that the report is predicting that 80% of the working population will need a university degree or vocational qualification by 2050, compared with 60% today. Now, I'm sure the universities would love, Evelyn, to have 80% of people coming through their doors because, of course, they make a lot of money and the government spends a lot of money on it. But really, 80% of the population is going to need to go to university. When if you look at the latest stats in terms of how many people are going through uni, there's actually been a small decline.
Fantastic. I think that's great that there's a small decline. I think too many people go to university, and I think too many people require these ridiculous pieces of paper to say you're smart enough to do your job. If you do your job, you do it well, you do it quickly, and you work good for your employer. That should be all that matters if you can do the job. I think that all this is socialism light. Let's get the government to change the way we fund university and student debt and HECS, and let's get the government to pay more money for you to have extra. It's socialism, and I think that unfortunately we're raising our children to think that unless they have a degree, they have no value in society. What happened to skilled workers? What happened to tradies? Get your boys to get a trade. Get your 100%. Girls to get a trade.
That's
the way of the future.
That's what they're saying, though. That's the vocational part. So it's a university or TAFE. In other words, school leavers just aren't going to cut it in a high-tech workforce. And that's what it's doing. And this plan is actually about taking money from those elite unis that I went to and became a student socialist and giving it to those smaller institutions, be it smaller, be it TAFEs or whatever, or be it just smaller up-and-coming universities that often used to be TAFEs or teachers' colleges or that sort of stuff.
I don't know why we have to overcomplicate it. I don't understand why we have to do these
because the problem is, and because we're not talking about unleashing a whole bunch of art students on the economy. That would be disastrous.
But that's what will happen. That's what's happening right now.
That's what's happening now. But no,
compromise
it's like what's happening with My Mechanic, right? My Mechanic is redundant now because cars that are made now need computer programmers, not mechanics. So he's had to teach himself all these sorts of crazy stuff. And good on him, he's very smart, he's very practical, and he's been able to do that. But he's just not being able to keep up. And soon mechanics, they reckon, with electric cars that don't have that wear and tear anymore, that just sort of are all basically a computer, there won't be any mechanics.
They won't be around forever.
So
by
what
2050, I would have thought that AI would have all our jobs.
That's right. That's what this is saying. This is saying
the robots would have taken over by then.
Learn to code, which is a terrifying thought. But yeah, this is what it's saying. It is saying that that sort of manual labour is going to be done by robots, just like in the old days it was done by slaves. And the people who were paid for doing it for the last couple of 100 years, it simply won't be there. So
okay, but just very quickly, before we get to the break, Paul, the issue with that, I think, is that you have people who just are not suited to any kind of study, they just don't want to do it or whatever, right? It has ever been thus. And so when we talk about the rise of AI and things, we're talking about people potentially en masse being put out of work. And do we expect a truckie who at the moment does great things to keep this country moving, say we've got a robot that's going to drive his truck and he's 45, are we really going to expect that he's going to be able to go and retrain for another job? It's a dangerous road, I think, we head down.
There's so much about this, right? They're clever, the way they've turned around and said what percentage will need a piece of paper, right? Our assumption being, is it a uni degree or is it a TAFE course? Here's the deal. If the Australian population is going to end up being 40 million, 50 million or 60 million, there's still going to be a need for people to put their hand down a toilet and unclog it.
Yes.
There is still going to be a need for somebody to run wires through a wall to build the homes of the future.
We're growing need.
So, and in actual fact, I think that if the population is to balloon as governments are addicted to, you need more people who are practical and more people who can actually do all of those things, let alone take care of all of those people as nurses.
That's who they're talking about, though. All those people, a plumber has a certificate today. That's not changing. An electrician will have a vocational...
No, I agree.
Yeah,
but in this report, are they suggesting culling the number of people studying gender studies?
Yes, exactly.
Is there a plan on that? I guarantee it ain't
trying to make it cheaper. This review said that those, so humanitarian,
it's not humanitarian. I was there.
Humanities, the social degrees, the communications degrees, those ones are an absolute waste of time.
Yeah.
This review says, oh, we've got to make them cheaper. Let's
No,
make them
for God's
16
sake.
grand cheaper.
Yeah, 'cause they're
Let's
worthless.
get-
What
and
we
I'm
should
like,
do-
you're paying 16 grand a year for this.
What we should do
You
is
go to
cap the
university.
bloody enrolments as far as I'm concerned. And of course,
Yes.
that was how it was once upon a time. The Gillard government uncapped them, and look what the education system
Oh, but
is
then
like
you'd make
now.
it a meritocracy.
Oh,
Caleb.
no, well, we'll get to, we
If you
will
want to do
get,
that,
we will
then it would be
get.
impossible for Australians to get into university because they
Good, but
they
we'll,
just
we'll,
don't
Go to
we'll
university to get
we'll
done
get
with
to
these things.
meritocracy.
That's so true.
We'll get to meritocracy